know me, I'm Karen. I'm the maths mum. I'm the crazy lady who's decided to tackle maths and learning difficulties. I've just got to admit somebody else in. For those of you who don't know me, I have a son, Lance, who has got Down syndrome, who is just turned 9. I've got 2 other boys as well, one who's just about to be 11 and one who is 7. And I'm a maths geek, so I was teaching parents how to teach the children maths before lockdown, and in lockdown my focus has really very much changed to building up the Maths for Life program. I had started it initially and working with Lance's school long before lockdown, but it really did take a focus, and actually over the last year it's been amazing with regard to the feedback and the traction that it's getting. It is very much about providing a method and a means for children who otherwise cannot access the level of the curriculum currently set out on a year-to-year basis, to actually make sure that they actually get the skills, the math skills secured that they need to live independently in the future. I always set the scene and say, you know, I'm realistic, but the Maths for Life is all about making sure that Lance can earn a living, can save money and budget, so that he remembers when my birthday is every year and he can buy me a birthday present. So that is my main goal. That's my focus. I'm not going to lie. No, but bigger picture, the project baseline has actually got some bigger picture. So what is project baseline? I'm going to kick into it because I assume everyone who's on the call at the moment is probably here. We're not expecting anyone else. Project baseline. So when we kicked off the pilot with Down Syndrome Oxford in February, when I was talking to the chair, we realised that we're about to do a year-long project with a group of families. And her, like I, Joss and I, very, very similar scientific background. We believe if you're going to do something, you need to benchmark. You need to understand what it's doing, what it's adding value. This pilot was not just about a touchy-feely. This pilot is very much about, let's build an evidence base to show that this Maths for Life and this approach actually truly works. And the only way we could do that is to have some type of assessment. And there wasn't a set standard out there, because if you actually ask, and we find it out through lockdown, what can your child do versus what they think they can do versus what a TA thinks they can do versus a parent or a teacher, there is actually quite often quite a lot of discrepancy. And also when we're benchmarking, quite often, if you're like me, you get the report, there is only 3 levels: emerging, on target and exceeding. We haven't broken it down. There are other things. There are pivots. There is, I've forgotten the electronic one, that B squared. There are electronic ways of measuring children in schools, but none of these are accessible to parents. They're not cost effective to parents. So I needed some way of assessing what the starting point for these 20, I think it's now 25 families, what the starting point of their student was. So I created these assessments. And when we actually started looking at how we were going to record, it became very clear that it wasn't just about a right or wrong answer, that it was very important to understand what a child was doing independently and how much help they were getting to achieve it. And this becomes very apparent when some of the children that we're working with move into the likes of Lance, you know, whether 8 or 9, and they're starting to take concepts that they have understood and trying to attempt them independently. And we needed some way of understanding attainment, which is understanding of concept, and ability to do it independently. So I spoke to an educational consultant in the US, and actually she pointed me in the direction of the speech and language prompt system, so the hierarchy of prompts. So that was the inspiration for what became the hierarchy of independence. So I'm just going to show you, and that's where we're going to start, because I think it's important to talk through what actually that means. So a show of hands, or a kind of a hand up if you've actually seen this before, because I don't want to spend too long at it, but everyone's spent time looking at it. But this was developed very much to try and ask the question, when somebody is doing a question, how much help are they getting? So we have a situation where the classic thing happens where somebody looks at maybe some of the content that I've got in the book and they go, but the child is actually able to do so much more than that. And I go, oh, that's amazing and excellent, that's great. Can they do it on their own? And then we kind of go, well, I don't know. So we're having this question come back time and time again, is can they actually do it on their own? So this hierarchy of independence very much aligns to this idea. We want to move up the scale. So I'm going to start at the bottom, or maybe I'm going to start at the top. I think the best way to do it is start at the top. Okay, so independent. What does independence actually mean? Independent. I give a worksheet to a child or a student. They read the question, they understand the question, and they complete it independently and hand it back to you. Okay, that is what we mean by independent. And there are children that have actually, there are children who have, and students that have completed some of the baseline assessments completely independently. Okay, so it is possible to do it. Some of our children are a long way off. Let's be realistic. Moving to the next level, there has been some confusion over what does assisted reading mean. I am not testing independence when it comes to reading, because I firmly believe that a child can understand maths concepts and complete maths concepts without the ability to read. Lance is a classic example. His reading ability is not great, but his maths ability is higher than his reading ability. So if I read the question to him, he understands it, and he completes it independently. But what I mean by this assisted reading is reading verbatim. No changing the words because the child doesn't understand that word. No changing which matches to which one is the same because they understand the same, or I've always talked about the same and not matches. They don't understand matches. It's as it's written in the question. So any deviation from that moves into the next level. Okay, so when I mean reading, I'm just going to pick out an example to, it might be too small to show. Right, so this idea of this one, I will read the words match to the color, and then I will leave Lance to it. Okay, I will point to the words as I'm reading them, match to the color, and that is it. There's no other reading involved. Okay. Okay, in this particular case, I may read the colors for him. I might go yellow, red, and blue. Okay, so that is it. That's the only other reading that I do in that particular page. So there's no changing of the language. It is exactly reading as it is. So again, that is very much testing the independence. The child can understand it if somebody else reads it. So that is just assisted reading. And that is to marry up this idea of I'm only wanting to test the maths ability. I don't particularly want to test the English ability, or I don't want to prejudice or mark down people because of reading ability if they understand the maths concepts. Indirect prompts used. So we have had a lot of discussion between the difference between indirect and direct prompts. And this is the biggest thing that parents and teaching assistants and teachers have fed back as, and this is the idea that we probably help our children and scaffold our children a lot more than we think we do. So this is about analyzing exactly how much do I help that child. And it's very clear to me, an indirect prompt versus a direct prompt. What do you think we should do? Shall we use Numicon? Okay, indirect is an open question. It's just prompting them. It's saying, what should we do? Now what? Yeah, expectant facial expressions, okay? But you're not leading an answer. You're not leading them to the answer. All you're doing is pushing it back to say, no, you think about this one. Yeah, in fact, that's a good one to use. No, you think about it. No, you do it. Quite often I have to say that to Lance. No, you do it. But the idea behind that is it's a guide. It's I'm prompting them to the next level, but I'm not giving them any clues. I'm not helping them do the math. I'm just at maths. I've been on an American call today, maths. I'm not actually doing anything other than, you know, that gentle kind of, I'm here, I'm reassuring that I'm here and I'm monitoring you. I haven't gone away. Okay, I'm here just to support you. So that's indirect prompts. Again, quite often that's just to encourage a child because this may be the first time that you're expecting them to completely do things independently. The direct prompt use, that is when you use verbal and non-verbal to help a student progress. So that is, shall we use an underline? Where do we put the answer? And you might actually be indicating towards where the answer should go. Do you think we need to count? Yeah. Or tapping. Quite often you'll see me when I'm doing which one is more, I'll go, which one is more? Which one is more? That is a direct prompt. Yeah. I'm actually asking him to move his eyes between the two options. Which one is more? Okay. That is a direct prompt, and I'm assisting him to do the question. The direct model is, this is when I'm starting to maybe do a topic where I know he understands it, or a child will understand it, but they still need a lot of assistance. So, you know, it might be, if your child is maybe moving into addition or subtraction for the first time, you're very much modeling it with them, but they're engaged. Yes, they're helping you pick which pneumicon represents 3. They're helping get it for you. They are interacting with you. Okay, but you are leading. So if you're doing a lot more of the work, then you are direct modeling it. They may be assisting you, so they may be able to find the right pneumicon, but you're assisting them with the idea. So adding, we put the pneumicon together. So that's what I mean by direct modeling. Direct modeling is, you are modeling how to do the question, but the child's very much engaged, and that is a learning process. Okay. Demonstrated. The difference between direct model and demonstrated is lack of engagement from the child. Okay, so that is the demarcation. A child is listening, but you're not getting any involvement. And it might be that they've switched off, that they deem it's too difficult for them to actually understand or do, or they're not interested. But whatever it is, it's demonstrated. That is the demarcation. It's interest and interaction of a child. The child may be sitting intently watching, but not get involved in any helping. Yet, if it's demonstrated and they haven't been involved, that is what you tick down. There is one other choice that is not on the hierarchy, but you can elect not to do a question. So you just skip it. So as in, you deem it too high level, past the ability of the child, and you can just skip it out as a non. So in the answer sheet, you will write not attempted. Okay, but hopefully, can I just ask, does that explain the hierarchy in terms that you completely understand? Is there any questions about the hierarchy before I move on? Any questions? Feel free to unmute. I can't see my chat at the moment, so it's let me just go, I'll unshare my screen. Where's my stop sharing? And I'll just go check. There's no questions on the chat. Now I can see you all. Has anyone got any questions about the hierarchy?
You explained it really clearly, thank you.
Yes. That's okay. I think the thing is that I've made it 6 choices, because actually, if there's a deviation in the middle, you know, and you're deciding, oh, I'm not quite sure, in the overall scoring and the way that I do it, it shouldn't make a massive amount of difference. But the more accurate we can get, the better the results will be. But the biggest question is between that direct and indirect. Direct, I am helping. Indirect, I'm not helping. I'm just there as a kind of, you know, as a TA should, you know, or TA or parent should be. But this is about unpicking in all of this work how much scaffolding we're giving the child. Okay, can I just talk about scaffolding? Yeah. Because I think the best way to describe it as scaffolding is, in Lance's EHCP, they have written he can dress himself. I argue it every time. The school say he can dress himself, and I go, really? Really? I said, because my 7-year-old can dress themselves. My 7-year-old comes down to me on a Saturday and he'll say, what are we doing today? And I'll tell him. He will look out the window and I'll say, go get dressed. And he will ascertain from what we're doing today to the weather outside, and he will go up and select his clothes and get dressed. Everything oriented around the right way, no special clothing. He can get dressed. Lance is not like that. We scaffold him to be able to do that. So I will pick the clothes for him. I will orientate the clothes for him. His clothes are elasticated so that he doesn't have buttons to deal with. His shirts are Velcro, so he doesn't have buttons to deal with. He has very expensive bamboo socks compared to the other children in the house, because they're easy to get his thumbs into and expand. Okay, he has Velcro shoes. Yeah, he has jumpers that he can pull on and off because they're 2 sizes, you know, bigger than he should be wearing. Okay, he is scaffolded to be able to dress himself. And I am not, what I want to get across is we do the exact same thing in maths. Okay, we scaffold our children to be able to actually complete the work. And what we need to do is understand that it is still learning when we understand, but we start to remove that layers of scaffold. Okay, so it's, you know, this idea of attainment is understanding, and then the move to independence is still of value, because what we're finding is if we forget to move to the independence, what happens later on in life is we have children who understand concepts but can't do anything on their own. So example, I have a child I'm working with on the pilot who is 14, who can do columnar addition and columnar subtraction, which is brilliant. Which is following methodology and amazing. However, they cannot answer the question, if I need to cook 4 sausages for you and 3 sausages for you, how many sausages do I need to cook altogether? Because they have never learned how to do the basic maths framed in reality without scaffolding. So they can do a columnar addition if somebody lines up the question for them. Okay, so that is not independent working, because in the real world, when that person is holding down a job and somebody asks them to count in total how many tins of sweet corn are in that storeroom and in that storeroom, when they go count them, they're not going to come back and ask their manager to line up the columnar addition for them. Okay, so they need to understand framed in reality, not just. So we need to remove the scaffolding to make sure that they can actually do the basic maths independently. Okay, so that is the hierarchy of education, hierarchy of independence. The baseline, I know some of you have already done it, so some of you have seen it. For those who haven't seen it, let me just share my screen again. I need to get to the right one. I think it's that one again, yeah. Share. And if I move on to here, can everyone, oh no, that's the wrong one. I wanted to go to, sorry, apologies. It's the wrong screen. I want to share this one. Sorry. There you go. I've got too many screens open on me here. Right. So this is what the baseline assessment looks like. Yep. It has got an explanation. Okay. For those who are doing it with young children, or you can model all of the questions with concrete. Yeah. You can actually go get yourself a small and big car if you want. They can be printed out, they can be done on a screen. You can point to the answer. You don't need to tick the answer. You know, which car is small. If a child indicates on a screen and points to it, that's absolutely perfectly fine. The questions are tick boxed, because whenever I'm doing this independently with a child who has got it in paper, I would like them to actually tick the box so they read which one is heavy and they know how to actually demonstrate and write down their answer. Okay, but that's why the marks are in there. That's why the boxes are in there, to get used to the idea of recording an answer. But it does not penalize somebody who cannot write, who is not using mark making yet. They can still point to the right answer. As it goes down, the interesting thing here is, if you haven't already noticed, this nomenclature up at the top relates exactly to the topic in the book. Okay, functional skills, topic 0, number 2. Okay, again, if I move on, you will see functional skills, topic 1, yeah, number 8. And that is exactly, so if I look in the book, for those of you, so I go to functional skills, topic 1, number 8, and it is testing stable order when counting up to 10. Okay, so it tells you what it is that I'm actually assessing, what skill set I'm assessing. Okay, so I'm just going to flip down to some, so you'll actually see it moves here into topic 2, number 25. Okay, the questions go in and out of difficulty, okay, because they follow through the logic of the book. There are some questions that are later down that some of the children who are quite young may never have even encountered before, but something like this, if they can count up to 10 and they understand shapes, they can actually attempt. Okay, and again, it's quite fun maths. Some of this is actually applied maths. Okay, so when it comes to the results, what I'm interested in is this idea of they correct, attempted, not attempted. People have asked me, what happens if they attempt it on their own and get it wrong, but then you help them and they get it right? Okay, what do I put down? And as far as I'm concerned, you can put both answers. You could put an attempt and then correct, and put in your level at which you help them. Okay, I will translate that because that makes complete sense to me. The child tried it on their own, they didn't get it, but it's great they tried it on their own, and then with help they were able to understand it. So what I get here is I get the level of help, and it might be they attempted it and the only help that you gave them was to say check your answer. Okay, so again, you could put a little notation in saying, asked to check answer, they self-corrected. So anything that you make notes wise, it is important, and I will listen and read that, and I understand exactly what it means, okay? Because I can picture in most of these cases when people say exactly what happens, or they get the numbers back to front, I told them to look at it again and they self-corrected. Absolutely fine. Self-correction is a brilliant tool to have. But things like that, just please put an asterisk in and say what it is. But the idea behind it, this should be things like C, completely independently, C, assisted reading. So remember, assisted reading, I just read the words. Number 3, so the green one is indirect prompts. The lighter green, direct prompts, modeled and demonstrated. If you haven't attempted it, not attempted it, don't bother filling in any of that, because obviously we know, and it is applicable. Sometimes in the foundations, you will know that the child has not, or the student has not even touched upon money, so we're not even going to bother doing it. Please don't put the child off by attempting questions that you know they can't do. It's not worth it. Do the questions you know that they can attempt. If you haven't covered a specific topic, don't bother attempting it. Don't, you know, it's almost like if you're demonstrating every single time, don't bother doing it. Yeah, if you get to one and you're demonstrating and you know the next one is similar, don't attempt the next one, just leave it, because we don't want to discourage or give the impression to the children that this is something onerous, because so far children have really enjoyed doing it because it looks different to a lot of the maths that they've ever done. Okay, so that is exactly, so this is foundations level. There is also level 1. People have said, how do I know? And if in doubt, start, have a look at foundations. You know the child that you're working with. If in doubt, start with foundations. If they breeze through that, do level 1. You're not going to lose out. Quite a lot, there's a number of the questions that are repeated in a similar vein on level 1. Level 1 also checks foundation skills. So if you just do level 1 and don't do foundations, I will still have a clear indication as to what level they're at. So it won't matter if you just do level 1 and you skip foundations if the child is ready. Pick the one that's most appropriate. I am pleased to say that book 2, which contains level 2, is at the printers. Yay! I've been writing really hard, and I'm hoping that over the next couple of weeks I will be able to create a level 2 baseline assessment as well. So it's just everything is one step at a time, but we get there. But that again will be coming up. It's like you will be able to see the syllabus and the content of level 2 if you've once it's published, and then you'll be able to gauge again through the baseline. Oh no, that starts into that's definitely not at the level my child, the child that I'm working with, or the child that my son or daughter is not at that level. So you probably have a guess, but they're pretty clear cut. Start with foundations, right? Level 1 if they sailed through foundations, and please feel free to send me both results. So what am I doing with these results? Okay, and what do you get? Because I think there's right. So I showed you briefly. I'm just going to share the screen. So for the children on the pilot, I created this template, and this is what they got fed back, but they're on the pilot, and I hasten to add, I've done this for a couple of people who are who have submitted results to the project baseline, simply because they've asked and they've said, we are about to do an annual review and it'd be very useful to have a sense check, or actually I've got a meeting with the school to discuss, is there any feedback that you can give? And I have created them. What I haven't said to everyone is everyone gets one of these, because it is unfair of me to actually say that I can do them all in a timely fashion, because at the moment I already know that I've got a backlog of about 20. Okay, so I don't want to promise. However, that said, if you can't understand, like if you read the idea behind it is you should be able to pick up using the same nomenclature which ones they're having difficulty with. If you can't gauge it, or you have got something like an annual review and you want me to create one of these, then please do let me know. I will give you a time scale as to when I can do it, but please be aware of the fact that I'm basically self-funding this entire research with my own time. So if I run out of it, it just means something else gets dropped off the list, like writing book number 2. But it's now, fingers crossed, it's all done. But what does this mean? It just gives you an overview, and it basically says what the strengths are, where the areas of improvement are, what you need to focus on. So you can see this is just a sample one. Okay, where it says good basic pre-number skills, improve attainment and independence by focusing on the vocabulary of comparison. So again, I'm giving an indication here to say that actually one of your areas that you can pretty much get a level step of improvement on is looking at the vocabulary of comparison, because quite often children know big and small, but some of the other words of comparison they haven't used or haven't got as much life experience in using. Again, looking for subtle differences and looking for categorization in life. So good numeracy skills 0 to 10, work on subitizing, seeing a number on a dice, then seeing groups of objects in a similar pattern, counting back from 10, use of ordinal numbers in everyday life to improve familiarity, focus on addition and subtraction framed in reality, understanding and creating number sentence and calculating and checking. So that's just my feedback from where that child was at, what they should focus on. And then we go into the common measures. And so in this case, suspect the student has never attempted this type of question before. However, they are an excellent way of looking at how numbers can be used in real life, and a great way of applying these up to 10 numeracy skills. So again, to allay the boredom of continuing to do some of the basic, counting up to 10, some of the actual more statistics and data handling questions are a good way of invigorating or repeating the counting up to 10 in a very different way. And what you actually get is these 2 scores. Okay, so again, these mean nothing in isolation. And in fact, everyone has got them. The first question they said is, what do they mean? What's independence? So this idea of independence is a score that we're looking to move to 1. 1 is I am completely independent. So the idea of that score is we would like it to decrease and move towards 1. The raw score is out of 10, and that takes into account understanding and independence. And what we're actually looking for is we want to move that as close to 10 as possible. Okay, a 10 means you've aced the level independently and you're absolutely, you're moving onwards. And I have actually benchmarked some children whose ability I know that I've been working with for over a year, or working with their parents for over a year. And I have benchmarked, and I know that you can get very close to 10 if you have, are absolutely secure and independent. It is attainable. Okay, and I've got that as a benchmark. So as when people say to me, you can actually see the areas that they need for improvement, but I know that it is actually achievable to actually, it's an assessment that it is achievable to get top scoring. Okay, but this idea of the independence, we're looking to move down, and the raw score move up to 10. So what that means is in 6 months time, so everyone who does a baseline assessment number 1, 6 months on from this date, you will get access to the second assessment, and it will be a very similar format. The questions will be different. It will still be testing all the same elements, and it will be scored in the same way, but it will be able to give us a like-for-like comparison to see what happens to these scores after 6 months and what happens to this score after 6 months. And the reason I'm interested in as many people as possible doing it, no matter what you're doing, whether you're following the Maths for Life program, whether you're working in a school, whether you're just working with a child and interested to see if there's any progress, is because for the first time ever, I would like to gather some statistics with regard to understanding what is a typical progression up the independence in 6 months time. I don't know at this stage whether we're expecting this jump by to 2.4. Is that realistic in 6 months? Is it realistic to think that it's it goes from 3.42 to 3.2? Is that 6 months? Is that what good looks like? Is that what we're looking at, the level of attainment from an independence perspective? What do we think we're going to get in 6 months time? What difference does it make if you're fully integrated and using the Maths for Life program? Okay, does that differ, or is it the same? Are our children absolutely limited by their, no matter what we input into them, they continue to develop their independence on their own level? So what this will give us is an idea of what is achievable with regard to levels of improvement in 6 months. And again, the raw score is the same. What will be interesting is whether there's a difference between those following the Maths for Life program and those who aren't following the Maths for Life program, who actually do take part in this. Obviously, the water's a bit muddy because people who are now accessing the baseline assessments are more interested in finding out about the Maths for Life program, which is fine. It's absolutely fine, because at the end of the day, I want our children to achieve, and whatever way that comes about, we will do it. But these statistics and this analysis I'm holding at the moment, so I haven't got, I should stop myself. I don't have a PhD student behind me. I kind of look sometimes and go, no, she's still not there, or he's still not there. I'm gathering it. I have gathered, I've got a degree in chemical engineering. So this type of, statistical analysis is not beyond me. I'm able to do it. I rest assured I can do it. But at some point or other, I have spoken to a group who I may be able to outsource some of the data analysis to, once I gather enough of it to help me, and I can apply for a grant to do that. So that is something that's looking like in the future. If I need additional help to help me with the analysis, then I will actually avail, and I'll put that to the group. So can we give anonymity to the students for sending the results? Absolutely, you can use initials. I don't need to know the actual names of the student. What I'm interested in is I think the form there that we sent in, what I record, which is, so the things that I absolutely want to record are the age at the time of assessment, okay, in years and months, and the date of assessment, whether they attend a mainstream or a special school or other. If it's other, please state what it is. Who is it completed by in the relationship to that student? Okay, so that is important, because I would like to see whether there's a different trend between teachers and TAs and parents, what they record for results. Do you give permission for me to record it electronically is the question. And I think the other question is, are you okay to do the follow-ups in, are you happy to do the follow-ups in 6 months and 12 months time? Yeah, so the student name, your choice. I record, even in my analysis, I only record the students as initials. Okay, so I'm not interested in, and that information is not shared to anyone else, so it wouldn't be shared with regard to this. At some point, I'd like to create some charts with regard to, and I will be looking more along the lines of things like age and school. Are they in mainstream school at this age, and what that profile looks like? I'm not interested in individual names. Okay, so I'm more interested in the age of the child and the profile, so they can remain completely anonymous. You don't even have to put initials down, so long as I have a contact detail for somebody who in 6 months time is the person I go to say, here's your assessment in 6 months. Okay. Obviously, if you are a school and you want to record the name, just basically let the parents know that you're doing it. That's just tie up that loop. If parents are interested in finding out more, point them in my direction. But yeah, it's I'm only interested in the actual age and their school. Okay, and actually the fact that you're allowing me to log them, the results. I've suddenly lost my track. Anyway, has anyone got any questions about the assessment and the results and what I'm doing with them? Unmute and ask away if you want.
Can I just ask, the little boy I work with signed, that's his communication. So if I did the baseline, so it'd be heavy or light, is that okay?
Absolutely, just make a note on it that you're signing, and in which case, obviously I know signing, I know exactly what you're doing. So if you're actually asking him the question and you're signing and he's signing back the answer, that is that's equivalent to ticking the box, that's equivalent to pointing. I just need to know that you're signed questions. Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you.
It should not, the whole point of the assessment is it should be able to, we're only testing the mathematical understanding. So if you're scaffolding because you're signing, you're giving them flashcards. So some people have done them with number flashcards and actually said, choose between, you know, and hold up the, you know, the two options. So long as they're choosing the right one and getting, and it's done on a basis of understanding, that is actually a tick box that they have.
Right.
You know,
Great. Thank you.
Got it correct. You know, I know the whole wrath of, you know, there are, interestingly, this assessment has been completed by a 4-year-old and a 22-year-old. So it's like, we're talking about a wide spectrum of abilities. So I try and write where possible to have it age neutral. It's not always that easy, and you know, some people have said, oh, but you know, they've got no involvement in that in their life. So some of the questions, it may be that they haven't had that life experience yet to be able to understand it. I try my best where possible to you know, try sometimes model it using maybe something else to see if they understand the concept in something that fits to them. Okay,
wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions? Is everyone asleep? No, you're all awake. I don't think I mean, I hopefully have covered everything. The actual results to date, when can we start? You can start. So the project baseline is completely accessible to everyone and it's free. So you can go on my website and if you go to free resources and click down, project baseline is there, and they're all the hierarchy, foundations and level 1 assessments are all available for you to download. The only thing I ask is if you download it and do it, if you send me back your results, then it's great. I have said, people have said, well, do I need to then, you know, get involved in, do I need the book, or do I need, if you want to do a gap analysis and you want to follow the Maths for Life program, it actually helps if you've got the book so that you can actually see what, you know, if you kind of go to the section and you realize, oh, the child has, you know, is difficulty doing F2, I'm trying to think, F235. Okay, those are the questions. Then you can go to the book and find out what that is. And actually, this is all the kind of the ideas for teaching and what you can do. So, you know, if you want to do it and use it as a gap analysis, which is what some of the older children have done, which is older children who may be working ahead of this level, and interesting parents have done it or TAs have done it to see what they're missing. And again, it can be a gap analysis to look at some of the foundations, what we're missing. And I can tell you now, the initial assessment has shown there are 2 things, which our children consistently are failing to understand. Okay, and I'm going to share this with you guys because I think it's important we understand what these 2 things are, because I think we can remedy it if we know about them. The first one is conservation of number. Okay, hands up who knows conservation of number. Right, so I've got at least one hand. Right, I want to demonstrate, and I got 2 hands. Thank you. I saw that one coming up. I want to demonstrate something to you. Right. Passively, I put them away. Right, okay. The reason I want to demonstrate is because in the assessment, this question keeps coming back and kind of going, no, the child didn't understand it or wasn't able to complete it. And let me just, sorry, I'm just trying to find the right page on it. I bet you it's before then, isn't it? Yeah, it looks like this, and it appears in both level foundations and level 1. Okay, in a 2D fashion, it's quite hard to actually test conservation of number. So I'd like to show you and kind of say you can elect to do this test absolutely using blocks and using this method rather than use that sheet. So if you're doing the baseline assessment, you can do this instead. But I think it's important to understand, right? So conservation of number, right? So my sheet is, I've got something underneath it. Let me move that so it doesn't wobble. So I will put these out and I will go, how many blocks have I got, Lance? Okay. Yeah, I can see the finger, you know, 1-to-1 correspondence. So likelihood, most of our children will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I've got 5 blocks. And then what I do is I do this. How many blocks have I got? Now, conservation of number is the understanding that I haven't added and I haven't taken away any blocks. I've moved them. They take up more space, yeah, in a line, but I haven't added or subtracted any numbers. So I still have the same number. Okay, chances are the child will go to count them again. Okay, we know this. This is consistently throughout all the results I've received so far, is the children will go to count them again. So if they do go to count them again, let them, and then go, of course there's still 5, because I didn't take away or add any. Now, for younger children, that idea of adding and taking away is too much for them. Okay, so we're talking about the ones that are starting into the adding or more than or less than and saying that. So don't worry if your child, you know, if you're still in the emerging pre-number skills, or, you know, you're basically still counting up to 5, don't worry too much about this. But for older children, it's important. Yes, so you count them again, but then you go, right, I'm going to move them again. How many have I got now? And this time you say, I moved them. I haven't added, I haven't taken any away. I still have 5. So again, I've moved from questioning, yeah, to modeling what the demonstration. So this is conservation of number, okay? And it can be done by simply doing five blocks. But I've asked the pilot group if they can actually teach this to their children, okay? So I've got a test group saying, can we make a difference by teaching it to them consistently? Because conservation of number, it's not really on the curriculum anywhere. It's a check, you know. I'm going to ask, there is a teacher in TA on here, but it doesn't form, it forms a check, but it doesn't form part of the curriculum. You don't teach conservation of number. It's not something that you teach per se, but I'm actually asking them to teach our children. So to do that system of the blocks, expand them out, and then teach them the second time, look, I haven't actually added or taken any away. It really comes down to the fact that we need to understand whether or not this is something that fundamentally, and I'm specifically talking about children with Down syndrome. I haven't yet got enough of a sample to see what it's like with other children who've got other learning difficulties. But we need to find out whether actually, if conservation of number is something fundamentally our children really struggle with, it makes a massive difference in how they understand maths when it gets past simple maths, okay? Because they believe in magic, and maths isn't magic. Yeah, there's no magic in maths. If you think there's magic in maths, you're thinking Johnny Ball, aren't you? But no, there's no magic in maths. But it really does make a difference. But interestingly, it relates directly to a development milestone that we know children with Down syndrome do develop later on. So object permanence. Anyone who's got children, can you remember back to those development milestones? Object permanence is the idea that if I cover something, it hasn't disappeared, it's still there just because you can't see it. If Daddy leaves the room, yeah, he hasn't disappeared into thin air, he still exists even though he's not currently in the room. Okay, that's object permanence, but it's a very similar logic to conservation of number. And I have anecdotally asked my test group a question, and we've been exploring the answers. But what does your child do when playing hide and seek? Yes. So this idea of, if I can't see, yeah, I can't be seen. It's a very similar thought process. So this developmental milestone, we're starting to see, it's not even until some of the older children who are in young teens still hide by covering their head, yeah, and not understanding that to hide, you need to cover your entire body. So we have got something that is consistent, that's showing to us there is something developmentally missing, or takes a lot longer to develop. That could well be adding into this idea of the conservation of number. So we're doing some, so this is the power of information, is we can do something about it. So I've got a test group testing the children and teaching the children. Let's see if it makes a difference, because it might be something that actually we need to stipulate, that conservation of number is actually a taught element that happens every week or every fortnight, or it's done a tick box every fortnight you do it with a child, or every week you do it with a child, as a point of learning rather than a point of checking. So, but interestingly, if you have children who have got Down syndrome, whether or not you're the TA, the teacher, or the parent, think about the next time you play hide and seek. Yeah, because I can guarantee you, you know, the amount of times, or, you know, Lance puts his head under the pillow and goes, I'm hiding. Apart from the fact he's telling me that, he genuinely doesn't understand that I can see him. Yeah, he doesn't understand that. So, but this is where this idea of information starts to actually question. That's really interesting. But those of you in maths who understand, you know, kind of the concept, conservation of number is massive when it comes to the later down the line math. So we need to understand, is it something they fundamentally find difficult? In which case it could be a limiting factor to their ability, although I don't want to put any limits on, because I've seen children who have got the capacity to go far. But it's one of those things that we want to know whether or not we can teach. If we can teach it, that will overcome quite a lot of this. Sorry, we sidetracked there completely. Was there any other questions? Everyone happy with what's going on?
Sorry, Karen, sorry, you were saying that there were two things that the initial results show. One is the conservation of number. What's the other one? Sorry.
Mine gone blank.
Don't worry. There were two things.
Oh, yeah, yes. Oh, I can't believe I forgot that. Right. Let me pull up the question and show you. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Is this question. Okay, if you haven't done it or haven't seen it, I can hold my breath for 10. It takes me 10 to walk to school. I sleep for 10 every night, and you have to select the right seconds, minutes, hours. Okay, so yeah, the other biggie is across the board. And I think this comes back to the idea that it's assumed children know what a second is, what a minute is, what an hour is. We have to remember we cannot assume anything. If we assume, we actually get it wrong. So we have to teach our children implicitly. And I think when we start talking about time, the first thing they talk about is telling the time. So we need to do a whole bit. And actually, it really does tally up to what's in my book, is the starting point for time is understanding time passing. What does a second feel like? What does a minute feel like? What does an hour feel like? Do they know the relative, the relative durations? Do they know a day? Can they understand what a week is, what a month is? So quite often you think, oh, they understand a day and a week. But actually it's about how this, a second. What can I do in a second? Yeah. What is a second? What's a minute? How does a minute feel? What can I do in a minute? So we need to spend a lot longer before we start going into the telling the time in understanding what time passing feels like. And the reason for this is, once we actually get that understanding of what time passing feels like, telling the time becomes easier, because we're actually talking relative to, they actually understand when the hand moves, it's going round in minutes. And actually that makes sense. It goes round slowly because I know there's 60 of those in it becomes, when you start building the maths into it, it's built on a knowledge of, I know when so Lance knows that when we watch a film is 2 hours. He knows that, sometimes when we say to him, we don't have time for a film tonight, he'll go, I know, because the film's long, isn't it? So he's already associating things in our life with duration. Yeah. Interesting, the sleeping at night, because he goes to sleep, he's got no recollection. But I've started talking to him about, in bed, when I'm cuddling up to him, I go, right, so you're going to sleep for, let's count it, and we'll count forward. And I'll say, 10 hours tonight. You're going to, when you're waking up, you'll have slept for 10 hours. Yeah. I'm not saying in his bed for 10 hours, but that kind of idea of, even though he's asleep, it's time passing. Yeah. It's 10 hours have passed from when you went to sleep to when you're waking up. So time passing. And in your day, if you're a teacher or a TA, pick times where you know there's an hour difference. Yeah, if you've got lunchtime for an hour, great, because that's an hour of fun time, and it will feel different than an hour of doing maths and English back to back, or indeed what PE feels like, or if you've got a music lesson. But you know, it can be a case of you setting your timer and going, okay, it's an hour to lunch, so let's look at what that hour feels like, and maybe doing it in kind of, it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes, it's 5 minutes, and have another clock that actually reads an hour. So then when you kind of go, all those 5 minutes added up to an hour. So this idea of time passing before you start talking about telling the time, because I think we had a shocker of teenagers who could not answer that question at all. Yeah. And that idea of not understanding what a second, minute, and hour are. And it may be framed in this, but since then, quite a lot of the parents who are involved have tried to kind of go, was it just that question? And actually the feedback coming back is, no, it wasn't just that question. It was actually true. They didn't understand it. And again, it's coming back to it time and time again. At one point, they may have, when they were 6 or 7 or 8, they may have been introduced to it. There may have been this idea that they understood it then, but then it was left and assumed, right, we're on to telling the time now, you get that. But nobody ever went back to check whether it was secured or it stayed there. And this idea of repetition, always to secure, and never assume that it's secured until the point in time where you can actually leave for a summer holidays, and you can back from a summer holidays and the child can still do what they did on the last, kind of. So the first thing you do every start of the year is to go back and check everything that they said on the last tick box was secured. Go back and check it's actually secured, because we haven't done anything for 6 weeks. Is it still secured? And you'll be surprised, the kind of the anecdotal evidence of, well, they could do that in primary school, and then 3 years on they're not doing it. It's like, well, question is, have they actually done it or used it since then? Yeah. Hopefully that makes, so those were the 2 biggies. But yeah, time passing, absolutely, again, highlighted as a massive deficiency, and actually again would underpin this idea why we know our children find telling the time quite difficult. So build the building blocks that actually helps them. Right, any other questions? I feel I've done all the talking. This was a Q&A session. Just a session. If there's no other are you sure there's no other questions? Is oh yeah, go for it, Sandra.
Hi, you're on about doing time and introducing that. How would you do it with money? Because that's where I'm struggling.
Money,
yeah, because we've done this is a penny, this is 2 pence, this is whatever. But then obviously going on your course, you're saying relate the money to items.
Value.
Yeah, so they got the value. So in the mornings, I get all our children to, because I'm a TA, I get all our children to book all their own toast and juice. So they put money in, they take money out. And the little girl I look after, she does exactly the same. She adds up numbers. So we try to make it very relevant. But I'm a bit struggling on the bit on value and coins and everything, really.
So it's life skills, and money's difficult because without life experience, it's very difficult to actually introduce this idea of money. I mean, most of the children that are being taught, even in primary school and mainstream school, they will never have dealt with money. So we teach them skills that they have no real use for in real life. So how old is the child?
8.
Yeah. So I would be asking the parents what they spent money on for her. So for me, Lance, I've made a value chart, which basically goes from 1p right up to £20. So, yeah. And each of those relate to something in his life. So and I think I may have talked to you about this, but it's that idea of understanding in her life what is of value to her. And that's a difficult one if you're a teacher and don't necessarily know, but things that she her parents might spend money on for her. But this idea of it's kind of it is relative value. It's understanding things in life that she might want and what value there are more important. So for me, I don't need to work out the change from you know, I don't want to work out the change from £2 if I buy 2 packets of crisps, because I'm never really going to actually use that in real life, because we just go tap these days. But what I want to know is a packet of crisps about £1, or is a packet of crisps about £5? Yeah. So think about that kind of, it's actually starting to give her a choice and kind of going, you know, what do we think this, how much do we think this costs in real life? Now, when you're working in pence, there's not very many examples still in pence, because if you look at everything today, we're starting at 50p. Yeah. And in fact, it's more important to kind of look at the pounds. You know, I think about what's going to be important for Lance in the future, and why money will be, you know, why this idea of skill and understanding value will be important is so he's not taken advantage of. Yeah. So somebody doesn't suddenly go, yeah, that coffee that you've just bought is £15. And he goes, excuse me? Yeah. No, a coffee's not £15. A coffee is, you know, probably when he's paying for it, about a fiver, if not already a fiver. I don't know. I can't remember the last time I bought a coffee. I've not been allowed out. But yeah, that kind of idea. So you need to think about maybe things that she buys. So if she has a pack, I'm just surmising, this is what I do in my head. If she's got a packed lunch, you know, and she's got a carton of, you know, like maybe a yogurt and whatever, you could actually work out, you know, you could go get your supermarket and kind of go, okay, so look, that is that £5 or 50p? Yeah, that yogurt, you know, if you go into the supermarket and buying that, is it going to be 50p or £5? And actually get her to start talking about, no, it's 50p. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that kind of related to things and how much and value. And the more things that you can think of that maybe she does. So things that are more expensive in Lance's life that I use, we used to use cinema, going to the cinema ticket was £10. He sometimes wants to download a premiere film that comes on Disney Plus, and some of them are £25. So we, you know, that's a £20 one. So things like that. Anytime I go to spend money on behalf of Lance, I normally tell him how much it is. So, and it's a gradual thing. It's going to take years for her to develop that true understanding of value. But the more you're talking about it, the more it will go in, and the less scary the topic becomes. But the more you use things like, this is worth 50p, or, you know, if I'm buying that one, it's going to cost me £1, or actually if I want that, or even, you know, 2 apples. Yeah. You know, 2 apples. This one cost £1. This one costs 50p. You know, things like that. You know, you can go to the supermarket and have a walk around and actually, you know, just to have some ideas. Walk around. What am I talking about? Where am I? Go walk around a supermarket. Go walk around a virtual super. You know, you get one. But this is exactly my point. Our children are lacking life experience, and it's not being helped by 15 months of not being able to have any life experience. So we are in backtracking, and money is key. Money is going to be eradicated. Coins are going to be eradicated in our lifetimes. So let's be clear, what is important is not working out what change you're going to get, because that's maths. That's actually adding and subtracting. Once you get adding and subtracting, you can do the money. Yeah, don't worry too much. Because once you get adding and subtracting, you'll be able to do that with money. But this idea of value and exchanging, exchanging, the bartering, So price lists, pencils, pens, rulers. You know, you could set up a stationery shop, but just keep the values real. The one thing I have a pet hate with is, you know, setting up a fake shop and having your pencils that are 2p and your, you know, that's not real. Real is, I bought a ruler today, it was £3.50. Like, what? It's but it was £3.50. So, you know, it's about the fact that value is going to be more in pounds. Yeah. You know, you can print real money. So you can photocopy real money, and you can print it so long as it's either 25% less in size or 25 greater than size. Okay. And you write, what is it you have to write? Sample. I think it's sample in a diagonal across the front of it. The ones I've definitely got a template, and the ones that are a template are real money, but I've done them in the right way. If your printer doesn't print it, it means it's trying to print it too close to the size of the money. I find this. So if I do a PDF and you change the size of it, if it comes too close to the real money, if you, like you say, enlarge it, it won't print it out, because our printers are designed to do that. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it will overrule. It'll. I've had PDFs where people say, I can't print the page that the money's on, and it's because I had to it's because sometimes they automatically resize when you change formats. But you can that's when you go, if you only print them on one side and laminate them, that can be your real money that you're working with, and actually look at what you can get and compare things. So one of the things I've just written in book The Next Level Up is things like comparing how much, so for older children, comparing how much fish and chips from the supermarket is compared to fish and chips from the chip shop.
Oh, okay, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so comparing, like, for, you know, if I'm buying something in a cafe, you know, versus if, you know, like if I go for a can of Coke in the or if I go for Starbucks and get, I can't even think, you don't get Coke in Starbucks, but you know what I mean. If you go out and you get a Coke in the pub, like we all go to the pubs with our children. But if you know, that kind of idea, if you're buying a drink when you're out versus if I buy a can of Coke from the supermarket, again, right. You know, there's lots to explore other than just that you can make it. And it's not about her getting the right answer. It's about this type of value is discussions. It's lots of demonstration. And the more you demonstrate and the more that she's listening, the less it becomes scary. So when people talk about it and when it starts to develop into questions, she is confident. Yep.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's better. Thanks.
Any other questions? No. Right. I'd love to spend all evening chatting with you guys because it's adult company. Does that mean, hold on, my children are still up. Please keep me for at least another half an hour. I'm only joking. I'll just talk to myself here. Now, if there's no other questions, I honestly don't want to keep you, but my, you know, I'm here to answer questions. Oh, came up as, oh, thank you for that one. I was wondering who you were. Somebody's just said I've come up as Katie, but I now know who you are, and I now know that you're actually part of the preschool that one of the Down Syndrome Oxford pilot are from. I've made the connection. Yes. Yeah, so I'm here to answer questions, so please message me in whichever way you want to get to. And as you know, I work on my own. I don't have anyone else helping. So I'm always very honest. If you say to me, have you got, quite often I'll say to you, I will get round to it. I have a long list and I never forget anything. But please be aware of the fact that sometimes it's not always a quick turnaround. But even if it is a quick question that I can answer, I will get back to you as soon as possible. But I'm hoping that through Project Baseline, we get more evidence. Is going on with our children, because I think we haven't, I've got the 2 books up here that have got research in them, one from Italy, and their sample population was 20. I can tell you now, I'm already at least 3, if not getting close to 4 times that amount so far. So yeah, the idea is the more people feed into school, the more information I can get out, which basically
began soon. I think it's nearly finished.
Yeah, it gives us things. Hello, it keeps coming on and off. So if you know somebody else, so you know, take from here. If there's somebody else in your social circle or in your schooling circle or somebody else that you think it would be useful, please let them know it exists. It's completely free. Yeah, and if nothing else, it will, you know, the assessment is 50 pages for the foundation and 70 odd pages for it will keep your children occupied for a bit and they enjoy doing it. So you're not going to lose anything. It's work for a couple of weeks. It doesn't matter if it takes 3 or 4 sittings, if it is done over a 2-week span, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how long it takes. This is not one that actually time is not, you know, time duration to do it is not something that is actually an issue. Okay. Yeah, you can make it your whole termly work if you wish it. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me this evening, but please, oh, I would like to check. Oh, okay, I'll get back to you, the direct message that you've just, yeah. So if you've got any questions, please contact me, and please suggest it to other people in your circle that might be of interest. So let's get, you know, if I can get over 100 of these completed, it's 100 that in 6 months' time will be completed in a year. That's a massive amount of information for us to go off. And as I said, it's a complete spectrum, so nobody's too old. When people say young, I say, look, 4 is probably the minimum. They need to have some involvement with regard to maths. Don't start the foundations, you know, if they've got no maths whatsoever, you'll just oppress yourself. So, you know, a 4 is a good benchmark, but, you know, please be aware of the fact that maybe quite a lot of them are non-applicable, but you can actually at least do the ones that are comparison and early number skills. Okay, I'm going to, if the person who's, oh, this has been great. Yeah, my child's enjoying doing the assessment. I've not had too many children. No children has come back and said they didn't enjoy it, so that's really good. At least teenagers have really enjoyed it too. And you know, thank you. I want to do this to benefit this entire community. It's not exclusively just Down syndrome. If you've got other children who you think would be interested, if they have a diagnosis, excellent. If they haven't got a diagnosis and you still like to do it, you can still record the results. I will record them because I have the category in it. Yep. Sarah, who's direct messaged me, if you want to stay on, I will talk to you directly if you want. Or yep. Can young adults take part? Absolutely. The oldest 22. And I've got somebody who's 27 who's working through the book. So in fact, actually, I find the teenagers really thoroughly enjoying it, and parents going, first time they've ever been able to do any maths on their own, and enjoy it because it's accessible and the language is accessible. And what's interesting with the teenagers who can read, they absolutely fly with the independence. Yeah, so you suddenly see the fact that their independence, their confidence, and they really get through it. Still, they're working in level 1, you know, but they don't know, because of the way it's designed, they don't see it as babyish at all. Yeah, they don't see it as babyish. So, you know, they don't associate the maths mom as something that, you know, the work that I'm doing is something that's, you know, beneath them. They're actually really quite enjoying it, and indeed enjoying the worksheets that they're getting. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to spend some time writing down some of these names. But if you want to keep up to date with what's going on, make sure that you sign up to my newsletter on the Maths for Life website. I have the Maths Mum and the Maths for Life. At some point in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to ask everyone in the Maths Mum who's following me to make sure they're on the other mailer, so I can complete the final stage of the divorcing myself. But the Maths for Life is the website that I will announce other Q&A sessions or any updates with what's going on. Okay, right. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.